Okay, now that we have installed off the software, I want to show you the steps necessary to create your own projects. A project is a single file or group of files using C code that get compiled into a program that will get loaded eventually onto the microchips that we use. Now, to start your first project, when you open the IDE, which is opened on the screen here, one of the things that you could do is either click here for Create New, or go up here under the drop down and say New Project. Either will do the same thing. Okay. So we're going to choose a project, and the choices for us are always microchip embedded. We want to put this onto a microchip, right? And we want a standalone project. So those are our choices. Click Next. The chips that we're using are 32-bit, so we want PIC 32, not 32C. So PIC 32. And our chip for this course is called the MX150F128B. There are many possible microchips you could use. They all have different features. Hardware tools. Okay, so we're going to be using a starter kit or the simulator in this course. A starter kit is how you program any program you rate in the MP Lab and get it onto your microchip. But I don't have one installed here. And anyway, what we want to do is learn about programming in C first. So I'm just going to click on the simulator. The simulator acts as if it's on a microchip. So any mistakes you make relating to the microchip, it will flag for you and say you have to fix this. So we're going to click on that, go Next. Then you have to tell it which compiler you're using. We want to use this one, the XC32. You might have a different version because this is a few months before you take the course. Okay. So I only have this one on, and then we want to give the project a name. Now, typically what you want to do is keep all your projects in the same place. I actually have my projects on a memory stick so I can take them from machine to machine. If you're going to use the computers in the labs, you should do that as well. Okay? You should have a USB memory stick that you can put files on. Working off the memory stick is a little slower, right? Or if you don't use a memory stick, you could save your files on the computer in the lab. When you're finished, email them to yourself, but then delete them because we don't want you to clog up our desktops or our computers with stuff we don't want. So this is our first project, so I'm going to call it First. And on my memory stick, under this directory called PIC32 projects, it creates a directory called first.x. And we're going to click Finish. The windows are going to change a bit. You'll see there's a pane over here that now says Projects. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the Start page because I don't need it anymore. And call up Projects again. Every time you see this little plus sign means there's lots of choices down here. And for us, projects consists of source files, this guy, and there's nothing in it, and header files, and I got nothing here. So I've created a project but it's an empty project. There's actually no coding here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to source files. Oh, sorry. Before I do anything, I want to click on first, and I want to go to properties for this file. Move this over, and under XC32 GCC, under preprocessing and messages, and I want to go to include directories. This window's a little big, so I'm going to shrink it. Okay. Bring this back here. Include directories. When we create our projects, we're often going to use a bunch of files over and over again. And we want to tell the IDE and the compiler where to find those files. So I'm going to click on this. That's a browse. We're going to browse. And here's my directory that I've created, first.x. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to want to include common. Right? That's where we're going to save a bunch of our files. Okay, say OK. And it's done. Now, if I tell it add certain other files, it knows where to find them. We're also going to be working with this simulator. And our microchip works at 8 megahertz. So we're going to change that to 8, not 18. Okay, that's good. And we also want to look at this one here, UART2 I/O options. We want to enable that as a window. Once I do that, I've done all the basic options that we're going to need. So simulator works at 8 megahertz like our chip, and that we want this UART window. And here we want the include directories to be common. Those are the basic things for our projects. So we're going to click apply and OK. Okay, so I've changed some of the options for the project just then, but I still don't have any source files. Now, I'm going to give you files quite often, but you can rate your own. So we're going to do a new main C file. Okay? It's going to put this file in the same directory, first.x, and it always calls it new main. And so I'm going to call it first as well. Okay? And let me finish. It's creating this file. It just takes a moment. And there, it's created it. So, projects. Okay. Here's my file. Let's pin that in place. And this is a first simple project. Right? It knows, because of my computer name, I'm Mike Coombs. Right? And it gives it a name and when it's created. You don't need all that. And it's also including xc.h, our compiler library. Okay? That's useful. Okay? And it's not a real program, it's just the start of a program. So every C project can have one or more files, but the starting point that the compiler uses to start the project is always here in the main. And we can add other things, like this is a comment. Compiler starts at main, can only have one main. Okay. So we have this project right here. It does nothing, but this is a totally legitimate project. And this icon right here, this is the build the main project. When I build it, it's going to compile this code. You can see down here, first build, and it's going to go through a bunch of statements as it compiles through it. It's in here, let me make this a little bigger, it's in here that if I have any typos or code that it doesn't understand, it'll give me warning and error messages. If things have gone well, I'll get this message right here, build successful. That's perfect. That's what we want to do. We created our first project. Now, I've created a first project, but it doesn't do anything. But we know now the steps to create a project, right? We just start at here. We build a new project, right? And just follow the steps through. Whenever we do the project, we're going to change the properties so that we include the common file, that the simulator works at 8 megahertz, and that we have the UR2 window open. They'll become obvious why we want those things a little later. Okay, so now I have this project, but it does nothing, and it's code that I have. I mentioned sometimes I'll give you files. So one of the things I can do is I can remove this file from the project. Okay? And I'm going to go to the various directories, right? And this is a program I'll give you later, basic math, copy. I'm going to go to first.x. This is what the directory looks like. I'm going to paste that file here. Now, in these directories here, there's not much of anything, okay? Because there was nothing in that file. I'm going to go back to the project. I'm going to go to source files, and I'm going to add an existing item, which is this basic math. Okay? I don't see it. So what I'm going to do is, right here, if I double click, it pops up here. I'm going to make this longer again. Okay? And it's just some math. But what I want you to look at is the include statements here. This is a C library, and so the compiler knows where all the C libraries are. But these are functions that I've written, and I have to tell it where to find them. They're in the common directory. But I also have to include them here. So add an existing item, go up from first, here's the common directory, and these two files I have to select. And now you can see they're here. They're part of my project now. So when this file compiles, it will know where to find these two projects. Those are header files. There's one source file that we need as well, and that's this guy. Okay. So a project can consist of a bunch of files, and this is how you add them. Okay. I could build this one and see if we're going to get any kinds of warning or error messages. Okay. And it does. It says there's lots of error messages. Right? This one is simply that it's having trouble reading some of my math. Right? Some of the symbols I used didn't crop out right. So okay. You can see that it's a strange looking character here. Right? This is just supposed to be minus. Right? these guys are supposed to be quotes. Let me try building that again. Still finding some errors in here. It's telling me that the errors were after this with the empty spaces. I got rid of the spaces. Let's try that again. And build successful. Okay. So we can build a project. We can use files from outside. Okay. When we compile, it goes through the code looking for mistakes to fix them for us. That's all we need to know for now. Thank you.